It all started like any other Saturday morning. I was sipping on my coffee, sitting in my front yard, watching the sun rise over the cul-de-sac. Life in my neighborhood was usually peaceful, except for one constant disruption: the HOA president, Karen. Karen had a knack for sticking her nose into everyone's business. If your grass was 1 inch too high, you'd get a violation notice. If your trash can was visible for more than 5 minutes, expect a fine. And if you dared to park your car slightly over the line, she would snap pictures like a paparazzi on a Hollywood red carpet. But my Jeep had always been her favorite target. A rugged military green Wrangler with heavy-duty tires, winch, and reinforced bumpers. It stood out in the neighborhood of manicured lawns and shiny minivans. Karen hated it. She claimed it didn't fit the aesthetic of the community. What she didn't know, though, was that this Jeep wasn't just my ride. It was part of a police task force's undercover programs. Still, I kept that detail quiet. As far as the neighbors knew, it was just my weekend adventure vehicle. That morning, though, I noticed Karen circling the cul-de-sac with her phone out. She slowed in front of my driveway, stared at my Jeep like it was an enemy combatant, and scribbled something in her little HOA notebook. I shrugged it off. It wasn't the first time. Later that afternoon, I was inside working on some paperwork when I heard the unmistakable clank of metal on metal. At first, I thought it was construction somewhere nearby. Then, snap, the sound of a lock being broken. I rushed outside and froze in disbelief. There was Karen, in broad daylight, bolt cutters in hand, crouched by my Jeep's wheel lock. She had already cut through the heavy-duty chain I used to secure it. "Karen, what the hell are you doing?" I shouted. Without flinching, she stood up and brushed her hands like she'd just done yard work. "This vehicle violates HOA regulations. It's unsightly, it's oversized, and it's lowering property values. We're impounding it." Impounding it. She wasn't even law enforcement. Behind her, 2 HOA lackeys were waiting with a pickup truck and a tow dolly. They were really about to steal my Jeep. "You can't just take someone's vehicle," I snapped. Stepping between her and the Jeep, Karen sneered. "I'm the president of this HOA. I can, and I will." I almost laughed at the absurdity. But then I remembered, this Jeep wasn't just mine. It was tied to active investigations. Inside the glove box was encrypted police communication equipment, and the trunk held tactical gear. If Karen succeeded in hauling it away, she'd be interfering with a police task force operation. That's when I made a decision: let her dig her own grave. I pulled out my phone and quietly called my task force contact, giving them the short version. "HOA president is stealing the Jeep. Activate backup." They told me to stall, so I did. Karen, meanwhile, barked orders at her lackeys. They began hooking the Jeep onto the tow dolly, grunting and sweating as the oversized tires resisted. She stood there smugly, arms crossed, already imagining herself as the hero who rid the neighborhood of the eyesore. "Karen, you have no idea what you're doing," I said. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing," she snapped. "And the HOA bylaws are on my side." At that exact moment, 3 unmarked SUVs rolled into the cul-de-sac, lights flashing discreetly behind the grills. Men in tactical vests stepped out, their presence commanding instant silence. "Step away from the vehicle," one of them barked. Karen's jaw dropped. "Excuse me, this is private HOA business," she protested. The officer ignored her, walking straight to me. "Sir, are you the registered handler of this vehicle?" "Yes," I replied calmly. Karen pointed at me furiously. "He's lying, this Jeep violates." The officer turned to her. "Ma'am, do you realize this vehicle belongs to a federal task force? By cutting that lock, you've tampered with government property." Her smug expression evaporated. For once, Karen was speechless. The task force agents immediately secured the Jeep and inspected it for tampering. Thankfully, Karen hadn't managed to get inside before they arrived. Her lackeys stood frozen, realizing they had just been accessories to a federal crime. Karen tried to recover. I I was just enforcing HOA regulations, she stammered. This is community property standards. One of the officers cut her off. Ma'am, you don't have the authority to seize private property, especially not a law enforcement vehicle. What you've done could result in obstruction charges. Her face went pale. Charges? But I'm the HOA president. The agents weren't amused. They took her statement, noted the damage, and warned her that this incident would be reported. After the SUVs rolled away, Karen's reputation in the neighborhood was shattered. The same neighbors who once feared her now whispered about how she nearly got herself arrested for trying to steal a police jeep. As for me, I sat back on my porch with another cup of coffee, watching her storm back to her house in humiliation. The HOA never bothered my jeep again. In fact, they tiptoed around me from that day forward. And Karen. Well, rumor has it, she's still fighting the HOA board to prove she was in the right. But around here, everyone knows the truth. She messed with the wrong jeep and the wrong guy.